Born in Akron, Ohio, May 21, 1923, Era Raul Parseghian first fell in love with the game of football as a junior at South High School. He was named the team captain, All-City, and honorable mention All-Star before he graduated.
America goes to war.
Soon after graduation, Parseghian would join the U.S. Navy to help the military's efforts in World War II. After the war, he'd go on to Ohio's Miami University, where he'd play on the school's football team as a halfback. In 1948, Parseghian joined the Cleveland Browns. He was a halfback and defensive back for 2 short seasons. His pro career brought to an end by a hip injury. Since he could no longer play, Era decided to try his hand at coaching. After successful head coaching gigs at Miami of Ohio and Northwestern universities, Parseghian set his sights on the iconic University of Notre Dame. And in 1964, the Era of Era, as they called it, began.
31 points for the Irish, and the Era of Era is underway.
Still, I look back on that season and find that it was an exciting year and one that I'll long remember in my coaching career.
Notre Dame hadn't had a winning season in 5 straight years, and Era was determined to change that. Parseghian would turn things around quickly in his first season as head coach. The Irish would rise to #1 in the national polls that year, remaining undefeated until the final game of the season against USC. A loss to the Trojans knocked them out of the top spot, but Parseghian's inaugural Irish earned the National Football Foundation's Championship MacArthur Trophy.
What a beginning for Era Parseghian at Notre Dame.
Then, in 1966, Era would find himself at the reins of another team that would land itself in the history books.
The 66 team was probably one of the best talented teams that we had. We had great balance and great leadership.
By 2-time All-American quarterback Terry Hanratty, the 1966 Fighting Irish would march through the season undefeated with 8 straight victories, shooting them to the top of the national polls. The hype only mounted as the team approached its contest against Michigan State, a matchup that became known as the game of the century.
The battle of the century. Undefeated Michigan State and undefeated Notre Dame to decide the national title.
In a controversial call, Parseghian decides to run down the clock to its final seconds without trying to score, ending the game in a tie. The next week, the Irish would march past the USC Trojans to keep their #1 spot in the polls, earning the 1966 national title.
The Irish storm back and hand Southern Cal the most lopsided defeat in this fabled series.
I think teams that are successful have to have those ingredients. You have to have talent, and you have to have field leadership and generalship. And that team was characterized by that.
Era's success continued through the late 60s and early 70s. He'd earn another national title in 1973 for a total of 2 national championships in just 11 seasons. In fact, Parseghian would never have a losing season at Notre Dame, with a win-loss tie record of 95, 17, and 4.
Era Parseghian's Notre Dame teams have always finished in the top 10.
Still today, he tallies the 3rd most wins for the Irish, behind coaching legends Knute Rockne and Lou Holtz.
Those are memorable experiences because everybody knows how much time, effort, and being a part of a team and being successful with that are very memorable parts of your life.
Notre Dame football.
Health issues forced Era to quit coaching after the 1974 season. He wouldn't completely leave the game, though. He soon began a broadcasting career, calling college football games for ABC and CBS. Parseghian was inducted into the National Football Foundation Hall of Fame in 1980.
So I understand the game, and I know what goes into your heart as you go through a whole season, and you fight like the dickens to make the best of every game.
And his passion and wisdom still make an impact on the Fighting Irish today.
Well, he writes a card to me. I keep them all. I have a book of cards that he drops me after most games. It's pretty special.
Although football was part of Era's life from the beginning, he'd dedicate himself to another important mission throughout his lifetime.
The intense coach of Notre Dame, extremely successful, a man who gives a lot of his time to things other than football.
Parseghian would bury 3 of his grandchildren after they died from a rare genetic disease called Niemann-Pick disease type C. Determined to find a cure, Ara and his family created the Ara Parseghian Medical Research Foundation in 1994, where he served as chairman until his death.